Hey everybody, welcome today, and I appreciate the opportunity to show you some things about retirement. And we're going to talk a little bit about the deficit and the debt ceiling that they had going on. So let's get started. I appreciate everybody being a little patient. We had some people call up and ask, could we maybe start just a few minutes late so they could get to their computers. We've had over 100 people register for today's webinar, so we'll try to go through and give you some information I think that's going to be very beneficial. We're also going to do some webinars for those that are on today that may be already students on the Dow and the NAS and how to trade the two of those together. So if you're interested in that, make sure you send me an email. I'll make sure that you get on that list also. We've talked to some students that we've been helping with that, and they've really enjoyed it. So I think we were going to add that to the program as well. So let's get started. First thing is understand that Charles Schwab estimates that an individual who needs to save $230,000 for every $1,000 that they'll need in monthly retirement income. However, only 31% of working Americans actually have $100,000 or more set up for retirement. So basically, if you wanted to have roughly $5,000 a month coming in on retirement, you're going to need about 1.2 million roughly just to have that small retirement coming in. And the biggest problem is looking at Social Security. It's nuts out there. You know, who knows which way it's going to go? What are they going to decide to do? You know, we've been watching here the last couple of weeks just with the expanding the debt ceilings or trying to get the two Congresses to work together. It's been kind of silly. So the point is that this webinar today is I'm going to show you how to take charge of your own retirement so you don't have to worry about these other people. You're going to be able to do this yourself regardless of what the government is. You know, the average person all the way across the board, the government says, has less than totally $250,000 in their own IRA or pension funds. You know, it kind of goes along with what Charles Schwab was saying. You know, for the average Social Security person, you know, that's only about $1,230 a month that they have coming in from the government. You know, I pay more than that to park my boat every month. So, you know, you can imagine somebody who wants to have a comfortable retirement. How in the world are they going to do that on $1,230 a month? You know, these three people here I'd like to introduce you to. The bottom right was my dad. That's me on the left, and then that's our son Austin, who's in the back. And my dad, who, as most people know, was a chiropractor, taught me to be a pretty good chiropractor. But the problem was he didn't teach me to be wealthy. And at the end of about 30 years of practice, my mom and dad had saved about $700,000 because they had learned that if you just save your money and put it away, that at the end of the day, everything will be okay. Well, they couldn't understand how I retired after 10 years, and they took 30, and I had almost twice the money they did. My whole claim to fame was turning 8,000 to 1.3 million, and they couldn't understand how in the world they did that. So that's when I showed my parents what to do, as well as Austin. Austin started his retirement when he was 13 years old. He's now 18 years old, or actually turned 19, and probably has more money than most Americans do in the bank. Now let me graphically show you what I'm talking about. If you look at this graph at the bottom, in the blue or kind of purple area at the bottom, going up kind of like a wedge, that was the retirement that my parents kept putting away every month and ended up with about $700,000. But if you look at the green area, that is what I did and how much faster mine grew compared to theirs. Now the good news is when my parents were about 65, I helped them after they asked me what did I do. I showed them specifically what I did, and you can see that they were able to have their retirement almost $2 million, and we did that in less than 5 years. So it doesn't matter what your age is, you can learn how to have a nice retirement if you just simply take the time to sit down and learn. Let me show you what my parents showed me, which is the problem I think for most people, including myself when I first started. If you look at this, this is a back of an envelope that I have sitting in my office that my mom did for me when I was about 12, 13 years old. I started mowing yards because my parents told me that you have to work hard and save your money. So of course I believe my mom and dad. And you can see back in 1970 it was $5 for doing the Warner's yard and $3.50 for washing the bus and $4 for the Fisher's yard, etc. Because I was told that if I worked hard and saved my money, then I'd have enough for retirement, which I think we've all learned that that's just not the case. So my parents, though, being good parents, like I said, they've taught me to treat people well, but they just did not understand the principles of building wealth. So now make sure you get a pencil and paper out, because I'm going to show you these principles that changed my life and my family, and they'll do the same for you as well. You see, I carried that before I learned the principles of wealth. I carried this with me, this work ethic my parents taught me. And even when I was mowing yards for $2, $3, I carried that all the way to my next job, which was an air traffic controller. And as an air traffic controller, I did the same thing. I made money, I put it away, and hoping that at the end of the day I'd have some money saved. But all I did was ended up making more money, but I still had to work. And that's where the problem was. But then I went on to chiropractic college. This is an x-ray for most people who don't know what this is. And I had the same problem I had when I was mowing yards. I was still working for my money. Now I made more money playing doctor than I did mowing yards, but still it was the same concept. I was still trading my time for money. And it wasn't until I became a real business owner of an airplane company that I understand the principle and how the rich people started getting wealthy. And you know, it basically is two things. One, it's specialized knowledge, and two, it's be able to take that specialized knowledge and realize the wealth through that specialized knowledge. And that's what we're going to go over here today. There's a book that I want everybody to make sure you read. Matter of fact, if you stay with me here through the program, I'll show you how to get this book. But it's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Now, Think and Grow Rich is a book that from Napoleon Hill was asked to write from Carnegie. And Carnegie had some very, very wealthy friends. And Andrew Carnegie asked Napoleon Hill if he would write down what made his rich friends rich. And basically they came up with about 16 different principles that rich people did that non-wealthy people would do. And we're going to try to go over about 6 of those today. The first one I want you to write down is called a mastermind group. You have to have a group of alike people that understand what your dreams are and you understand what theirs are, and you have a connection together. Now, if you look at this on the left-hand side, you'll see a black and white picture. From the left side is Henry Ford to Thomas Edison to Warren G. Harding and Harvey Firestone. Those were the great industrialists back in the last century. But look over to the right. There's Warren Buffett and Bill Gates in the middle, and Christian Bryan, Bridges on the right. Now, all 3 of those people have different backgrounds, but they understand the principles are the same. They have a mastermind group. Now, write these down. Number 1 is a mastermind group. Number 2, they have a burning desire. Number 3, they have specialized knowledge. Number 4, they're very disciplined. Number 5, they're very decisive. And number 6, they take action. And let me ask you, doesn't it kind of make sense, though, if you're going to be wealthy, doesn't it make sense to be wealthy that you do what wealthy people do? And that's what I did. You know, what you have to ask yourself is who taught you to be wealthy? See, my parents taught me to be good and to make sure you help people and be kind to individuals, but they didn't know anything about building wealth. So you have to write down, make sure you find you a wealth mentor. That's very important. Now let's look at the wealth code and how this works. We're going to break this down. Number one, the biggest problem most people do is that they're in the wrong business model, not the wrong profession. Doesn't matter if you're a doctor, lawyer, or Indian chief. Has nothing to do with your profession, has to do with your business model. Most people, as I did when I first learned, were trading time for money. In other words, I was mowing yards averaging $3 an hour. Well, then I went to ATC, became an air traffic controller, and I was $80 an hour. But look, even when I was playing doctor at $300 an hour, I was still in the same business model. I was trading my time for money. And that's not what wealthy people do. What wealthy people do is they trade money for time. They make their money work for them. That's when I learned after I had my MRI center, where it ran 24 hours a day, and it made over $400 an hour. The airplane company made over $2,000 an hour. What do you think Warren Buffett makes an hour? Do you think he's out there trading time for money, or is he trading money for time? Let me help you out. He's going to trade money for time. Now, how do we get from time for money to money for time? We're going to do that in an exact science. See, wealth building is an exact science. That's what we're going through today. So let's take a moment and look at some of the things Warren Buffett has says that you have to do. Number one is you have to gather information. Number two, you have to analyze the information. And then number three, you have to act on the information. Let me say it again. You gather the information, you analyze it, and then you act on it. There's two things that we're going to go over today that Warren Buffett says has the greatest effect on building wealth. Number one is we're going to minimize taxes, and then number two, we're going to show you how to grow your wealth. And that is what wealthy people do. See, wealthy people know a process, and they learn wealth strategies. Number one, they learn how to lower their taxes legally. Don't get in any tax scams. And number two is they learn how to grow their money. What opportunities are there out there? Now I'm going to show you how devastating taxes are to you in this next couple of graphs. So make sure that you have a good understanding of what I'm about to show you, because it's the difference between being a multi-hundredaire and a multi-millionaire is looking at how devastating taxes are to you. By learning how to lower our taxes and growing our money, it's going to be specialized knowledge. And that's the difference between wealthy people and non-wealthy people, is they take the time to get specialized knowledge and to learn what can they do to lower their taxes and to grow their money. Now the IRS basically says there are 7 types of incomes. They don't care which one, you get to choose. It's voluntary. You get to choose which group you want to be in. But if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see earned income, interest and dividends, short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains, deferred tax income, rents and royalties, and tax-free income. The top up there, earned income, is the highest income taxes available. And that's where most people are, because they're in the wrong business model. Not the wrong professions, just the wrong business model. Where we want to go is we want to move over to the right-hand side where we have tax-free income. So let's take a look at the difference between paying taxes or being in tax-free income and a government-sponsored program. Watch this. Here's a graph on the left-hand side from 1913 all the way to 2012 on the right. Now, look at the taxes here when they first came out back in 1913. Do you remember what they said? They were only going to tax the wealthy, and they were going to tax them only a couple percent. Does that sound familiar? Anybody ever heard that before? All right, then in 1927, the taxes went up to about 27%. Look at 1955. The taxes were over 90%. And today, the taxes are about 40%. Now, with all of the new regulations that are coming in, where do you think taxes are going to go? Let me help you out. They're going to go up. So now let's look at this and see exactly what what this does to your retirement. If we were to take $1 at 100% return, now I know some of you will say, well, Rick, I don't know how to make 100%. Well, we're going to show you in just a moment the opportunities to do 100% or better on your money. But just watch how this taxes devastates you. Number one, on the left-hand side, that's our first year. On the beginning of the year, we make $1. At the end of the year, with 100% return, that's $2. Second year, we start with $2, and we got 4. Third year, 4. You can see how it goes all the way down the chart. Look down the bottom right, circled in green. At the end of that simple compounding 100% return, we'll have over $1,048,576. Now write that down. $1,048,576. Now let's take a look at that and see exactly what happens if we pay the current tax rate that's out there. Same graph. We take $1 at 100% return. At the beginning of the year, we start with $1. At the end of the year, again, our 100% return, we've got $2. But we have a $1 gain between the $1 and $2. Now we have to pay our tax at the 40% tax rate. So instead of having $2 at the end of the year, now we've only got $1.60. At year 2, instead of starting out with $2, we're starting out with $1.60, $3.20 because 100%. Now we have another $1.60. Now we got 64 cents, or only $2.56. Now I asked you to write down just a moment ago that $1 million plus if we could grow our money tax-free. Look at the difference on this. Look in the bottom right-hand corner in the red. Instead of having $1 million, simply by paying current tax rates, instead of $1 million, you're down to $12,000. Now, do you want $12,089.27, or do you want $1,048,576? Folks, the choice is yours. By being on the call today, we're going to educate you how you can do that. Now, write this down. Here's the government program that you want to do, and it's called a Roth. Now, the government allows us to pay our taxes up front and put a certain amount into a Roth each year. Everything that grows inside of that Roth is 100% tax-free. Let me say it again. 100% tax-free. When you pull it out, it's 100% tax-free. Now, there are basically two types of Roths. There is the individual Roth, and then there's a 401k Roth. Now, there are things called 401ks, but we're talking about a 401k Roth. And you'll have to talk to your tax accountant to see which one works best for you. But the point is, get one, because it's devastating paying that 40% tax. You can see the real growth is the compounding. Because it's like Albert Einstein said. Most people don't realize, but Albert Einstein not only was a brilliant physicist, but he was a great business person. And he says, people who do not understand the power of compounding, pay it. Those who do understand the power of compounding, collect it. And that's what we want to do. You know, and just like we talked about before with Warren Buffett, and he talked about gathering information, analyzing it, and then acting on it. The information I just gave you, you have to act on that information, or you'll never be able to take advantage of those government programs. Now, the next thing we want to look at after we've lowered our taxes is how do we grow our wealth. Now, let's take a look at this. I want to check your financial IQs here a little bit, and we'll go through and we'll see where the opportunities are. Look at this. If we were able to put away approximately $165 a month, that's only about $5 and some change a day, guys. $5 a day. At the end of 25 years, With 0% interest, you'd have $49,000 on $5 a day. Now, if you went up and did the same thing at 3% for 25 years, you have $73,000. That's almost doubled just off a simple 3%. What about if it was 6%? For 25 years, you'd have $114,000. Can you think of places you could get 6%? I know people used to tell me, well, I used to have CDs, but now those CDs don't even pay 1%. How about 10%? You ever heard of anybody who are making 10% on their money? Look at the difference between 0 and 10% is the difference between $49,000 and $218,000. Do you know that there's government programs that will guarantee you 15%, 20, 25% on your money? Those government programs? What about if you could go above and beyond and earn 50 or 100%? Look at something simply as 25% on your money over 25 years. The difference is between $49,000 at 0 or 25% at $3,800,000. It's staggering, the difference. And you can grow this tax-free in your Roth. Now, let's take an example and let's build this out so you can see exactly how it works. I want you to take a blank piece of paper and make 4 vertical lines. And then if you're using regular line paper, just go down about 11 lines down. You can use those horizontal lines if you choose to. And you'll go down about 11 lines, just like you see on the graph. Then across the top, I want you to put year, amount, yield, and the result. And on the left-hand side, I want you to start out with 10, 9, 8, you kind of get it, go all the way down to 1. Under the column of year, I want you to start out 2012, because that's the last tax year that we've had so far, and go all the way down, and it'll end up with 2003. Can you remember where 2003 was? I do. So where are you going to be in the next few years? Now let's take the amount, $165 a month, approximately 12 months is about $2,000. That's where this 2,000 came from. On line 1, we got 100% return. That gives us $4,000 a year. Take the 4,000 plus the 2. Why are we adding the 2? You remember thinking grow rich? What they said, you have to be disciplined. You got to still put the 2,000 away. 100% gives us 12,000. 12 plus 2 is 14. 100 gives us 28. 28 and 2 gives us 60. 62 gives us 124. And at the end of 6 years, you're over $250,000 just by simply following this formula. Look what happens at year 7. You're over $500,000. And at year 8, you're over $1 million. Not compared that if you continue on and letting it go, where the results end up. At the end of 10 years, you're over $4 million. Where were you for the last 10 years? Do you have over 4 million after the last 10? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Now I want to show you what it is that wealthy people use to build their wealth. Now I like this slide here because you've got Jay-Z and Warren Buffett. They're both billionaires, yet could you ask for 2 diverse more people? I mean, one's on one end of the scale and one's on the other. But yet the common denominator is that they have the same principles I'm showing you here. If you look at the top 10 in the Forbes magazine of the wealthiest people, they all have the same thing that has made them wealthy. The number 1 wealth building strategy is stocks and options. Now some people may have said, well, Rick, I lost money when I did stocks. Now, I lost money in the market. Well, welcome to my world. So did I. But what I found out was that I needed to take control myself. You see, I gave a stockbroker $150,000, which was all the money I had in the world. And he ended up giving me $100,000 back. And it was at that point I said to myself, I'm going to figure out how this game is played. So go along here with me and I'm going to show you exactly what you have to look for and how this game is played. You see, stocks basically have 3 cycles. They have a growth phase, they have a maturity phase, and a decline phase. And it's a matter of understanding and knowing where these stocks are in this life cycle. So let's take a couple look at some stocks and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Here's one that was back in 2011, a couple years ago that had our signals for knowing where to get in and where to get out. In a little 3-month period of time, that was up over 100 points. Now, based on $1,000 per point, that means every time it went up, it went from basically around $70 to $170 in 4 months, or a little over 3 months actually. That's $100,000. Now, most people that I know don't make that $100,000 in a 3-month period. But if you'll take the time to learn what the indicators are, you can take advantage every time the stocks go up and down. Now, we talked about specifically the stocks going up and down because of this debt ceiling problem that we've had. I'm going to show you some of my students and the money they've made here just from this debt ceiling problem, quote unquote. When other people were wringing their hands, they're making money. So now let's look at the cycle itself again. And what about if a stock goes down? Do you know that you can make money on a stock that goes down as well? And write this down. This is called shorting a stock. If you short the stock, you can catch it to the downside as well. Now, what I just showed you was the same stock here went up 100 points, but it also went down 100 points in less than a month. That's $200,000 in about a 4-month period of time. As a general rule, stocks go down 5 times faster than they go up. Now, let's look at some of the headlines. Now, if you have a smartphone, one of those Androids or iPhones, those little handheld computers aren't smart enough to hold all the data every time you ask it for something. So it has to go out to the internet and get that. And there's things called servers, and they call it the cloud, where it goes out, gets the information, it pulls it back. And I'd like to show you just what cloud technology is going. Do you think that we're going to go back to the old flip phones, or do you think that computers are going to get more powerful? The same way with their hand phones. I think they're going to get more powerful. So let's look at what some of the cloud stocks have done just in the last year or two. VMware, Akamai, CRM, FFIV, and Riverbed. Collectively, that's over 697% in 1 year. Now, you're probably asking me a minute ago, you said, well, Rick, in your example you gave, if you made 100% a year on your money. Well, most people said, I don't know how to make 100% or more. Well, now you can see the opportunities in front of you if you'll simply take the time to sit down and learn it. Here are some stocks collectively that made almost 700%. Instead of making 100% a year, if you can make 700%, where do you think your retirement would be? Do you think that would move up the time schedule a little bit? I think it would. Here's one of my students, Craig Longworth, that bought Amazon off the signals and then turned around and sold the signals on the sell signals, and a little over a month and a half was up $20,000. And that had nothing to do with his regular profession, because now he's letting his money make him time. So he's not changed his profession, he's simply changed his business model. How about Apple? You ever heard of a company called Apple? Look at some of the opportunities here. Apple was up 90 points. Here's our sell signal. And now it can all the way to the downside. Remember we talked about shorting a minute ago? Down 135 points. And guess what? Now it's on its way back up in this chart. And guess what? There's another opportunity to pick up another 30 points. That's 255 points, or $255,000. if you're just simply willing to learn the indicators. You've got to do what the wealthy people do if you're going to become wealthy. Now, if we add up Google, we all heard of Google and the opportunities that it's provided. Same thing, 170 points in a 3-month period. And this was in last year in November. I mean, we're not talking years ago, guys. We're just talking a few months ago. To the downside, had 100 points to the downside. Back up to the upside, guess what? Had another opportunity of 50 points. That's 320 points. That's $320,000, guys. All while you're still doing your regular professions. Simply taking the time to learn how to manage and grow your own retirement. Look at these. Akamai was up 200 points. Amazon I just showed you from Craig Longworth was 20. Apple was up 225. Google's 320. That's $765,000 in about a 4-month period of time. How much do you need to reach your retirement? Now let me show you the whole trading process and how this works. First, we have to develop a watch list so we know which stocks to watch. That's how we know with the ones I just showed you which ones we want to look at. Then we got to pick the stock. We have to know what indicators you use to actually pick the great stocks. Then we have to analyze them so that we know which direction they want to go. And then we're going to decide whether we're going to buy the stock to the upside or we're going to short the stock and sell it to the downside. Once we take our profit, we simply repeat the process. That's the whole name of the game. This is how the wealthy people get wealthy. Remember what Warren Buffett said? Gather the information, analyze it, and act on it. Now, some people, I want you to understand this, they have different issues with the current administration, with President Obama. I'm not here to make a political statement one way or the other. What I want to share with you is there's golden opportunities here with the Obama administration and some of the things that they're doing. I predict this is going to make more multimillionaires in the next 5 years than it has in the last 20, just from these opportunities that are here. What I've showed you is you can make money to the upside as well to the downside. Now look at the beginning of the year here. This was Celgene. Look at the top right corner. You see the little square. It says 122.13. We had indicators there to buy. Those indicators are the same ones that I showed you just a minute ago. But here it was in January with the indicators. Up 18 points in about 12 days, or 22% return on your investment. That's pretty good. But let's go forward a little bit. Now let's look at April, which is approximately 4 months later. Here was our buy point that we had. And now 40 points in 4 months, that's 50% return on your investment. Simply by taking a few minutes at the end of the day, about 10 minutes at the end of the day, and going through and looking at the stocks. It's not rocket science. Now, this is somebody I would like for you to take a moment and listen to. I have to change the settings on my computer, so bear with me for just a moment. This will take a minute. But this is a recording that Mike and Lori left on my cell phone, and I put it on here so that you could hear this and how they feel about their future. So bear with me just a second while I change over to this recording.
Hey, Rick, this is Mike Patton. Hey, I just wanted to call and let you know that I started your program back in October area, and since then I started live trading the 1st of November, and as of today, my account's up 120%. And just wanted to say thank you. This stuff is great, and just really appreciate it. It's a good program. I'm glad I did it. I know I was extremely skeptical at first, but just wanted to call and say thanks. Thanks a lot. Bye.
That, I hope, gives you an understanding of somebody who just started out and following a system. And that's what we've developed for you, is to make sure that you follow the system and you have a great opportunity to take charge of your future. There's another gentleman, I hope, who's on the uh, call today, and this is Dr. Bob. And Dr. Bob, if you're there, if you maybe you could tell them your experience before you started the program, and then afterwards, and then his CA Kelly, I hope, who is here today also. This is live, folks, so bear with us on some of the technology issues. This is the 17th of October, and it's about 12:40 in the afternoon. So hopefully this will work for us. Dr. Bob, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very good. Could you take a few minutes and tell them some of your background on the trading and things, and where you're at
Yeah.
today?
Sure. I had been investing since I was 16 years old. I'm 29 now. No, I'm kidding. Um, I've been investing since I was 16. I did pretty well. In fact, I did really well. But in the recession 2009, I lost half of everything that I owned. And then I realized I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just pretty lucky. So at about that time, in the height of the recession, I got a hold of Rick, and I took his course. And the first thing I realized was, man, I wouldn't have lost any of this money if I knew Rick's strategy. And then I realized I would have made a bunch of money back then if I knew these strategies. In fact, Rick made 80% in the height of that recession, 2009. So anyway, ever since I learned the course, it's been all great from there. I made back all my money and then a bunch more. My average trade is probably 50% in about a 4-day period. My best trade was 337%. Just so you know, the downside, we protect all of our trades, so you can't get hurt very much if it goes against you, and if you do this right, few trades will go against you. So it's been wonderful. I sleep well at night because I know whatever happens in the market, I'm going to make money. During the time of the recession before I ever met Rick, it was extremely stressful thinking, how am I going to make my money back to retire? What am I going to do? I don't have those worries anymore. About 2 years ago, Rick's wife couldn't make a seminar in Atlanta, and he asked me to bring along my CA so she could help out in the back of the room. Her name is Kelly, and she learned the system, and she trades on occasion, so hopefully she's on the call. Are you there, Kelly?
I am. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, well, my story is quite different from Dr. Amanda and Rick's because until a couple of years ago, I had never had any experience in the stock market. But like Dr. Amanda said, I went to the Atlanta seminar to help Peggy out, and I liked what I heard. So I started studying Rick's system on my own, but honestly, at first, I was still very scared. But you know what? I realized that Rick's checklist system absolutely takes the fear, emotion, and the guesswork out of trading. And one of my favorite trades, I watched for a stock that fit the parameters of the system for buying calls, and I waited till it was ready to trade. I bought it, and in 2 days, I made 37%. Now I'm really excited that I'm able to grow my retirement money myself. I don't have to hope that the government will have something left to take care of me when I'm older. I now have the specialized knowledge to do that myself. And, I also wanted to say that when I first started the system, I was worried about the amount of time it would take in the evenings. I work, I'm a wife and mom, and like everybody else, I just don't have a lot of time at the end of the day. But after the initial time I put into learning the system, I'm happy to say that it does only take about 10 minutes after work to look over my watch list, make my decisions for the next day. So, Rick, thank you, and God bless you. My family and I are very grateful, so grateful. Since I started your program, my life and that of my family has absolutely changed for the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, and Dr. Bob. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy day to do this. I'd like to show you, if I can, a couple other students and what they've said. If you guys remember Bernie Madoff, because Dr. Andy had given their family money to Bernie Madoff, and we all know what happened there. And basically he is so thankful now that he's in control of his finances. He's in control of his family's future. He says, since I took Rick's course, I've restored my SEP, which is one of his retirement programs. I've doubled my children's college account and tripled the value of my personal portfolio in the last 6 months. Now, Bernie Madoff couldn't do that for him. Only he could do that when he was willing to take the time and learn what he needed to do. You see, what I'm showing you here, folks, is not rocket science. I think Dr. Bob and Kelly have both contested to that. It's a matter of learning a skill set if you just simply take the time to sit down and learn it. Here's also Dr. Bob from New Jersey. He says, I wanted to take a few moments and express my gratitude to you for your program and the amazing support you provide. It's not often that you find someone who's willing, who is as committed to their student success as you are. I have doubled my account and I believe I am just warming up. There is no doubt in my mind that you have changed my financial future and my life forever. And I owe you a debt of gratitude. Thanks again. Now, Dr. Bob told me he just recently got married, so it'll be interesting to see how well his account does. Small little joke there. Wealthy people know a process, and that process is what we just learned here today. That wealth process involves lowering your taxes. I showed you how devastating taxes are. What did we learn with that to make sure that we can lower our taxes? We did a Roth, remember that? A 401k Roth or a regular Roth, either one. Make sure you get a Roth either way. We learned how to grow our money. We're going to do that with stocks and options. That's the number one way that we're going to do it. And you've heard from some people here today how they're doing it. Do you remember a few minutes ago I showed you the $765,000 that was out there, the opportunity? Well, that was last year. But think what that would do for your total retirement. That would move you up 7 years in 1 year, move you closer to your retirement. Just by taking the few minutes a day and sit down and learning what you have to do that the wealthy people do. Now, if you'll bear with me one moment, I've got one other chart I'd like to show you here, and then also something that one of my students recently sent me in the last week or so. So let me show you this chart. This is a chart of Amazon. If you look in the top right-hand corner, you'll see that's 10/16, which was yesterday. But I want you to look on here and look at the indicators that told us where to buy. Back in the beginning of September, a little over a month ago, here were the indicators just a month ago. If you had known this a month ago, this opportunity would have presented itself for you. In less, or actually about a month, we had sell signals just like we had before. And in those sell signals, we had a total of about 20 points. Now, if you notice the black arrow and it says Philly class, we just recently did a class in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, just a couple of weeks ago. And where you see that black arrow, that's where Amazon was at the time. And everybody had the opportunity at that point to take this trade. We talked about this trade at the class, exactly where the secondary entries were. So you can see where the primary and second in the primary entry and exit is, but there was a secondary entry, and that's what we went over in the class. So let me show you just here in about a month, that's an 8% return, or 23 points, $23,000, if you had the opportunity to take advantage of it. Now let me show you what one of my students just sent me last week. This is Dr. Mike and his family. He says, Rick, I just wanted to thank you so much for the life-changing seminar that you did last week. There's no headaches. You just press the button on your computer from anywhere in the world, and the money is in your account ready to use. Now here's the important point I want everybody to realize. He says, I got it. I understood it, and I used it. And I made over $3,000 cash flow income from this month using less than $50,000. Now, do you know what kind of ROI that is, return on your investment? Simply because he took the time, he came to the Philadelphia class, he watched our online videos, and he took action. Remember what Think and Grow Rich talks about? You have to be decisive and take action. And here's the best part. He says, I'm finally excited about my financial future because he's controlling his future, nobody else. He now has the opportunity for him and his family. I think that's why his son is laughing so hard in that picture. If you can see the picture, I think he's like, hey, yeah, Dad, how's that trust fund coming? All right, so when do you think you should get started? You know, my mom and dad, like I said, worked for 30 years and had $700,000, which I think is pretty miserable for 30 years of work. Whereas I did for 3 years, turned 8,000 and 1.3 million. Now, which would you rather choose? Now, the good news is if you look at the gold on the right, when I helped my parents grow their 700,000 to almost 2 million in 5 years, using the same system that I'm showing you here today. And our son in the back started this when he's 13 and he's now 19 and he's on his way doing the same thing. So you have to ask yourself, when do you think the right times to get started? When you're 65 like my mom and dad? Or when I was back when I was 35? Or do you think like Austin when he started at 13? I'm going to suggest to you, you get started now and get going. Take action. Be decisive. You know, these people that you saw here today, they're people just like you and I. They just took the time to sit down and learn it. It's not rocket science. It's just a learned skill set. It's ordinary people like you and I taking charge of our own futures and not giving it to some bozo at a broker somewhere. Just taking our time and doing it ourselves. Here's the fast track wealth system that I've put together. We have a checklist. Most people don't realize, but I'm a pilot. And one of the skill sets I learned as a pilot is you have a checklist. If you've ever flown commercial and you go look at the cockpit as you're walking back to your seat, you see the guys in there up front and they're flipping papers back and forth. Those are checklists. Now those guys have thousands upon thousands of hours, but yet they all have checklists. And the reason for the checklist is simply to make sure they don't forget something. Well, I took that skill set I learned as a pilot and I combined it with what I've learned in trading stocks and options. So now we have a checklist to make sure you follow it and you go through, and it gives you a high rate of success following the checklist. Secondly, we have approximately 4 hours of online video, and it's self-paced. You can start it and stop it as many times as you like. It's a lifetime membership to the website. So if you want to take 10 minutes a day and look at it, or you want to take one day and go through all 4 hours of videos, you can do whatever you would like. Next is you can attend a live class. As you just saw Dr. Mike, we had a class in Philadelphia, and he chose that he would like to come to that class. And look what it did for him. He made that $3,000, by the way, on the airplane. I didn't even realize that some of these airplanes have Wi-Fi online, and he made his trade while he was going back to his home up in Washington. Next, it takes about 10 to 15 hours to implement is what my students tell me. So it's not difficult to do. You just have to take the time to do it. It takes about 10 minutes at the end of the day. So you stay in your profession. At the end of the day when you're finished, you pull out your checklist that I give you, and you take your time and you go through. You see, here's the truth of the matter. You're not going to ever be in more than 2 to 3, maybe 4 stocks. That's it. How long does it really take you to check 2 or 3 stocks in a day? It only takes a matter of about 10 minutes a day at the end of the day. Now remember, this is not day trading. This is end of day. So take your time, go through them, and you'll find out using the checklist if you should stay in the stock or get out of it, just like the ones I showed you here today. Now, I do not charge for consultation, and I don't charge for coaching. You can call me anytime you like. I give you direct access to my cell and to my email. So you can call me personally anytime that you would like. Okay guys, I'm just one guy, so here's what we're going to do. Until midnight tomorrow are the first 25 people. I'm going to show you here how to get started. Number 1, get the form that's listed on the website. Or number 2, fax in the form to 888-411-3856. or if you want to make sure that you and your family are one of the first 25, call Peggy now at 813-924-2255. And guys, remember, this is a lifetime membership. The tuition is $3,995, and that's for your entire family. That includes your kids, your brother and sister, and your spouse. Now, we talked about earlier about the books of Think and Grow Rich and the magic of thinking big. What we're going to do is to put all of this information, including the links to the class, on an iPad mini. So you can pull the iPad mini out at any time that you want and go to any of those classes. So the books will be linked on there, the videos will be linked, and you and your family can enjoy it together. So I look forward to helping the first 25 that are calling. And if you have any questions, let me know. Some for my family to yours, I look forward to helping you. Goodbye.